Machi.
Everybody, I believe we're live. I'm Clay Olson,
I'm Holly Jepson.
and we're here to talk to you guys during this Fortify chat. We're excited to get with you on this Tuesday afternoon for us. I don't know what it is for you guys,
Yeah.
but just a reminder for those of you who are in attendance and watching this live, feel free to make comments. Let us know that you're here. Let us know if you have any questions throughout. Those of you who are watching after this, when it's not live in the archives, feel free to continue the conversation on this as well. I'm
Yeah.
excited to talk about this subject.
Oh, it's a
It's
it's
one
a
that
good
comes
one.
up for us a lot. And for those of you who don't know, Fortified Chats are conversations that we do every month, um, centered around things that are kind of coming up for you in the community, messaging us, things that we hear, challenges that you're having, and then solutions also from you out of the
Yes.
community and things that you guys are coming up with and brainstorming. So we just want to kind of share that with you. So we're not the experts necessarily. You guys are the ones talking about it. I shouldn't say that. Actually, Holly is an actual expert. She's a therapist, and so she's keeping us in line. But we're really kind of leaning on your expertise
Yeah.
during these Fortified chats. And so, why don't you the topic? What are we going to talk about today?
Interchange, and I'm really excited about this.
Interchange. So to kind of set the tone for interchange, one of our users with the name of the we're assuming this is a username and not his real name, but it's Akim Kautsiokis. You guys
Very
come
good.
up with very, very good names. And he said this, and so this is going to kind of set the tone for the chat today. He said, I'm a little confused. The second week video talks about interchange. This is the video in week 2 talking about interchange versus outer change. But what exactly does that mean? Is that like a shift in attitude? So, Holly, what is interchange? Let's clear this up
Yeah.
right
Let's
here and
just
now.
set it out.
What
with
is
that
interchange
question.
and how does that differ from outer change?
Right. So I think the reason we do get a lot of questions on this, and it is a little, I think because interchange is a little abstract. It's kind of
It's more difficult to define.
yeah, it's a change of heart. It's a core shift, but like yeah, it's a shift in attitude, but it's more than that, and that's why it's so hard to describe. And I can see it when people reach it, like in my office, I can see when that inner core shift happens. There's a difference in how they do the outer change, but it to get there is a little bit hard to define. But our users came up with some amazing things.
And real quick, because this is how I look at inner change versus outer change.
Yeah.
Outer change are most people, most programs, most people in the process of change and behavioral change focus on outer change. That's literally the center of their efforts. It's about changing schedules. It's changing eating habits. It's limiting exposure to
Yeah,
things.
filters,
Filters. It's all the kind of the manifestations,
the tools, urge surfing,
or the
all
branches, if you will, of that the core struggle. So so it's important that we focus on those things. It's not
100%.
incorrect to focus on your battle tracker and your daily patterns and seeing what's going on. But if you don't, and this is what kind of came from me, if you don't focus on interchange, which is again that core desire, as you talk about, that core desire to that really drives a lot of your decisions, drives it's basically who you are. For some people, it's centered in a faith. It's centered in a belief in God and a higher power, in a purpose here on in our life. For others, it's just kind of knowing who they are as individuals and what they really want out of life and the goals that they have for themselves. But that interchange, if we just focus on outer change, we won't have very sustainable or long-term freedom. We'll have stints. But that core inner peace, if we can get there, which is more difficult, as you say, if we can get there, that's where recovery exists.
Yeah. And a balance of the two, because if you just focus on interchange, the outer change really helps you to make that the day-to-day changes. Like they work together.
One fuels the other. They go in hand, but they are distinct and they are very critical. And real quick, so a challenge came up in the community. A user named Anonymous, that's actually the name of the user, said, "Hey everyone, I was just thinking, has anyone ever experienced what they watched when they watch porn and like you say, gosh, I'd like to do that. I don't want to do that. I need to stop. But then deep down in your heart, I'm like, maybe I don't really want to stop. Um, I feel like I feel like this morning, and it scares me, and it makes me feel like I really don't want to quit, but a small part of me wants to. Does anybody have any insights that could help me change my desire? It's kind of this back and forth. Like, well, sometimes I really don't, but then other times I'm like, well, maybe I don't really. Maybe I
Yeah.
do really want to. It's kind of this back and forth, and so this is a challenge. First of all, anonymous, you're not alone.
Yeah.
This is kind of we have another video in Fortify, the ebb and flow of desire. So you're not alone.
Hmm.
But our users, you guys, you came up with some really good responses to
I'm really
interchange,
excited.
and so let's go into some of those. Why don't you
Okay.
take the first one?
All right. So the first one was by Wes Gray 81, and he said, "We are all here because we know that porn is something that we don't want. Then we have to figure out what we really do want. And to me, when we figure that out, it develops interchange." So then he goes on to say, "I've come to the conclusion that I love porn so much because I want it to be real. They make it out to be a possible scenario in real life, and this is a lie. It's not real interaction, it's not real enjoyment. Real relationships are what we're learning. Be encouraged. We are in the boat with you." He's talking to the other users, and realize that real relationships are so much more satisfying for him. Really reaching into that real relationship is really what helped him turn that interchange.
Focusing on those real connections really kind of anchored him and pushed him toward that interchange. So that's great. That's a great comment by Wes Gray 81. We have another one here from GGMU.
I really like this one.
He says, interchange can sometimes feel like the golden goose. It's like, where is it? How do I get to it? We all want to rid ourselves of this habit, but we simply cannot use enough to satisfy our urges. Being in this community is a sign that you want permanent change. Now, you must learn to match your momentary decisions with your overarching vision. Mm-hmm. If your vision is to be free from this plague, then you must create daily, weekly, monthly goals to work on your heart, on your kind of core desire, to fill your heart with positive things. That's good. I like that. Like talking about the goals that we set and kind of like anchoring ourselves to those. And we talk about anchors as well.
And I like it because he makes this a little bit more action oriented. Like, okay, here's your overarching, and that's good, but let's do something like focus on the heart and really
and actually set goals to focus on, like daily, weekly. Because interchange doesn't happen by just sitting there and saying, well, I should not want this and therefore change my inner desires. You've got to work on them. You got to massage those. You've got to shepherd them toward interchange.
Yeah, it can start with kind of an epiphany, but if you don't go down to the details, I found, you really have to get action in there.
Good. Why don't you take Gregory?
Yep, Gregory. So he was commenting about the video. This is a truly deep video.
The video in week 2.
It answers that question I've asked for myself for so many years. Why do I keep coming back to this?
Have you ever asked yourself that?
Right?
All of us.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yep, guaranteed. Right. The answer is that I'm afraid to confront my own self-hate, self-perceptions, and deep-seated issues. It's time for that change. I cannot tell you how many times that this is what I address in therapy. Really? Is where people I find get blocked with that interchange is that self-hate. It's like this dark cloud around them, and they have to kind of plow through that. And that could be because of unresolved trauma. It could be because of just, negative self-concepts from, teenage years, anything just not confronted. And when they start breaking through that interchange starts to come, and it you could just see the light, the change. It's just an easier thing.
And one of you guys, I'm going to skip to Joe Schmo. I like
Love that name.
Joe Schmo said this, which ties perfectly into what you're just talking about. It's the self-hate, this self-loathing, shame can play a big role in this, really like this. And can really stunt somebody's interchange. So he says this: a wise man once taught me, and this is in the community, a wise man once taught me the importance of a change of heart. He taught me an analogy. Imagine you buy an old beat up truck. It's so old and clunky that who cares if it gets dirty? Compare that to if you bought a $100,000 Porsche, you're going to treat that thing like a queen. You're going to treat that thing very differently than the old beat up truck, right? Whether it was porn or something in life that happened, I started to think of myself as the beat up old truck.
Mhm.
Somehow we have allowed ourselves to think of ourselves as cheap, beat up trucks. Kind of again, this self-loathing, like I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
I'm not, worthy of change.
Right.
The problem is, and for him, this is kind of centered in a belief. The problem is God doesn't make beat up old trucks. He only makes Porsches. I love that. Well done. Well played. He only makes Porsches. The
Can't argue
true,
with
yeah, you
that.
can't argue with that. The true healing is when we have inner change and an inner realization that we really are all a Porsche. We really are worth a lot. When we truly internalize that, it changes things. It changes everything when we realize kind of the value of each one of us. Um, for me, it's been continually telling myself in the mirror or whenever that I am a Porsche in this process. So I think that can play a role in it. I guess what I should say is that interchanges, if you are dealing with that self-hate and that
Mhm.
feeling you're like a beat up truck,
Yeah.
interchange is going to be difficult.
Very
You've got to
difficult.
recognize that what you are dealing with isn't who you are. One of the first videos in Fortify
Mhm.
is who you are versus where you are. If you are feeling like this struggle with pornography is who you are,
Yeah.
like I am this struggle, well then
Mhm.
you're going to start to value yourself very differently. But if you feel like I am a Porsche and I'm struggling with this other thing on the side that can be dealt with, well, that's a totally different
It
frame of reference.
changes,
Yeah.
right? Because when you have that negative concept, that negative self-belief, you act out and behave in that negative way.
Yeah.
Well, I can't change, so why even try?
Yeah. So again,
So
please,
important.
let's take all those adjectives of monster and messed up and
Mhm.
I'm not worth it, all
Broken.
broken, all those things, and like let's put those away. Those are not helpful. They're
Mhm.
proven to be unhelpful in the recovery process, and really understand your own worth. So that's a big part. Let's continue on.
Yeah. So Elsie, she's a female coach and been pretty active in the community. She gives a little bit more action oriented idea that works for her. She says, I have found that prayer and meditation are valuable tools in my interchange toolbox. If for some reason I'm not able to meditate, I write, and that helps calm my mind too. For me, there's something about putting pen to a paper, or I suppose fingers to a keyboard, that is very cathartic, and it helps me clear out my mental clutter. And we had a lot of comments on this of mental meditation, of prayer,
Yeah.
of a way as a medium of connecting into that heart.
Yeah. And I think that makes a lot of sense because
Mm-hmm.
those deep beliefs, those core values of yours are really what drive, a lot of the decisions in our lives, particularly those that reference a core inner, a core inner belief. And so
Yeah.
that's critical.
And to access that daily is, I mean, because you can have those beliefs all you want, but if you don't access that daily and connect to it, then it's hard to get that interchange going.
Juanjo
Mm-hmm.
said this, and I thought this was good because he's talking about for him what brought him interchange. He said, for the first time in almost 4 years of fighting, I'm reaching a month clean. First of all, Juanjo, congratulations. That's amazing.
Congrats.
That's awesome. Keep it up.
Yep.
And with only 2 small craving moments, I won. Without noticing, I committed to interchange, and that was the difference I deeply sought all these years. What made me change was love. I'm in a healthy and honest relationship. I'm not saying that this is the only way to get to interchange, not at all.
I like that.
Finally, I committed to a deep change in my values, to an unconscious interchange in myself uh, uh, for my new relationship and also my friends and family. So for them, this deep love, this commitment to someone
Mm-hmm.
really drove their a deeper understanding about what they were dealing with and how to then get free from it. So that's
And
great.
what they really want, what
Yeah,
the core desires. Yeah, I really like that one.
great.
Okay, so DJ Snell.
Digital
Um
Snell.
DJ Snell. We
That's
love it.
awesome.
We love it. It's awesome. All right. I have realized the need for feeding this spiritual or inner side of me more. My wife also told me that I'm doing a good job with all of these other aspects. And here she's talking about outer change, such as getting rid of my smartphone, my computer. Those are outer changes. For that, but that for me to reach longer lasting change, I need spiritual help. So, I mean, this
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
dives into what we've been talking about.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, that's going to be a recurring theme for a lot of people. Not everyone, but you know, a belief that we're all connected in a higher power. To some,
Yeah.
for some people, it's very religious. Other people, it's
Right. It's
deep.
very different for everybody how
Yeah.
they reach that spiritual.
But I think that that's going to be core for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Tico Bro, I like that. Tico Bro said that interchange can mean something entirely different for everybody. So it's difficult to give a specific answer. After watching the video once myself, I watched it again. This is referring back to that week 2 video.
Mhm.
I watched it again with my wife so we could discuss it together. If you have a loved one or an ally savvy to your specific situation, maybe you could ask for their input. I find that to be very helpful. So involving your allies, people close to you, people that you trust, people that you love, to kind of like talk about like those desires and talk about those
dive a little
those
bit
interests.
deeper. Yeah. And I think two people doing that and I've seen that happen can create a synergy of of insights. So I think that's a really good suggestion.
Just a couple more. Here we go. Let's
Right.
keep going.
So, but these are really good.
Yeah.
Okay. John J said, I appreciated the video because it made the point again for the second week video. For those that have actually experienced both inner and outer change and who have fallen or in our case have relapsed, it doesn't mean it's impossible that we didn't try hard enough. Rather, it means that maybe we're a little imbalanced, that either our inner or our outer change was not balanced with the other. And this has been my case for sure. Very good insight. So, because I think a lot of people say, well, I thought I made that interchange. And I've had clients come in and say, and had a really true inner shift, but yet they had a setback or something, and they came in and they're like, oh my gosh, so did I not have that? Like, is it supposed to? And he says, well, maybe it's this imbalance. Maybe we're not balancing one with the other. And so it's just something to look at.
Awesome. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you have any questions, please write us in here on the chat. We'll be checking that in a second. I just want to read this one last one here that we have. So why don't you take a stab at that username?
Fontes Aquarium.
Yeah.
Aquarium?
Okay. Yes. So that individual wrote the following. The question becomes, how can one affect this kind of long-lasting interchange? Mm-hmm. This leads me to think of broader questions about how to live a good life and what such a life includes: poetry, love, recreation, intellectual challenges, God, family. These are kinds of things that can change our souls. Okay, so that I love that comment at the very end. These are the kinds of things that can change our souls. That's, when we talk about interchange, a lot of times people refer to it as like a core change or a change to one's soul.
Yeah.
Very, very, very deep self. And so we have seen, I hope that we haven't been too, it hasn't been too daunting, this idea of interchange. I think for some people, it's like, oh my gosh,
don't even know where to start.
How do I even get there? Again, we've heard some great insights from some of the users, but know that this is a process. Mm-hmm. This doesn't happen like that. This doesn't happen like, okay, just go into the other room, figure out, write down your anchors, write down, have a conversation with a loved one, and you're going to have interchange. Interchange is a process, and it's something that you need to kind of course correct often.
Yeah.
And get to the point where you are then, where it's kind of a more natural state of being. So,
it's
so
almost
keep
like
working at it.
Falling in love. Like people say, well, how do you know if you're really in love? But then when you experience it, you're like, oh, this is it,
Yes.
and that's how people come in like, I think I have it. And that's why it's so hard. And it's a feeling, it's warm, and like the heart, the soul, all of those words describe it.
And I think that it's also important to know that, when you feel like you had that interchange and that you are moving in the right direction, it doesn't mean that you're free and clear. There are going to be times where you still feel, pushed off course. Yeah. You'll be triggered. You'll be you'll have a moment of weakness, and you'll be pushed off course a bit. And again, coming back to that course correction, staying on staying focused on those core desires, those core ambitions, those core beliefs, and we're excited for you. This is possible. That's why in Fortify, we don't just focus on outer change, like maybe some other things that you've been involved with. We very much focus on both outer and inner change, and combined, that's where people find a lot of success. So thank you guys for joining us. And we will, if there were questions, I couldn't see any questions here. So if there were, we'll answer them here, and we'll get back to you. But thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.